And once again, before I introduce my very special guest today, just a few minor announcements. I want to thank everybody who's on the live chat, everybody's tuned in, and for those of you that will probably catch it tomorrow, probably you guys got to go to work or you got a dinner date or something like that. But I just want to thank everybody who's liked, commented, subscribed, whether you like, disliked, it doesn't matter. You guys are still watching, and I want to thank you guys for being a part of our show. Later on, we'll be taking calls, so if you guys want to talk to my guests or ask something pertaining to what we've been talking about, or just share something that you guys have witnessed, experienced, or something, maybe a story that's been passed down to you guys from your family or a friend, feel free to call us and share with us. But I do want to stress that please try to keep those conversations less than 2 minutes, because I know a lot of times you guys have a lot to share and you guys just want to, keep sharing, but we want to give everybody else an opportunity to call in. So with that being said, my guest for tonight is paranormal expert Brian Clune. Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Oh, yes.
But just as an FYI, I really hate the term expert where the paranormal is concerned.
Okay.
And the reason being is I don't believe that there is actually a paranormal expert out there, because we're all still just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So just as a little aside.
Thank you. And now, before we continue and share some of your books, some of your work, some of the stories, some of your experiences, can you give the people a little bit of your background? Who is Brian Clune?
Sure. So when I was about 3 years old, my father passed away. All right. So I never knew my father. However, he never left. He passed away in the home. And over the years that I was growing up, we always had these really weird things going on. Mm-hmm. One of the most profound was I was maybe 11 years old, and I had brought home this really nice big sheath knife. Okay. And I was sitting at my desk in my bedroom, and I was sharpening the knife and just, having fun, and I was the only one at home. And the telephone rings. And this is back when you had a kitchen phone.
Yes.
So I walked out, picked up the phone, and all I got was a dial tone. There was nothing there. Mm. I was gone from my room maybe less than a minute. I came back, knife was gone. Everything else was there. The sheath was there, the sharpening stone, everything was there. No knife. And to this day, I've never found it.
Wow.
So I kind of figured, all right, my dad's probably still hanging around and, didn't want me cutting myself at 11. When my mother passed away in 1987, all activity in the house stopped. Literally nothing ever again. So my sister and I, we just sort of figured that my dad was hanging around, waiting for my mom, and then they went off together.
Yeah.
So because we always had this strange activity going on in the house, I was always kind of into what is on the other side. So as we all do growing up, yes, we all know about haunted houses in the area, and we all go to haunted houses or perceived haunted houses to try and get a good scare. And naturally, I did that as I was growing up. Was always into horror movies and ghost stories and things like that. Did a little novice investigating here and there. But when my oldest son aged out of the Boy Scouts, I was still involved because my middle son and my nephew were still involved in the troop. But my oldest son and I, we were kind of starting to drift apart. So I was like, all right, what can we do together that we can have some fun with and basically stay friends?
Yes.
So I went to my son and said, is there something we can do? And he's like, hey, Dad, let's go ghost hunting. And I kind of gave him one of those weird looks and said, well, maybe I ought to take you to a shrink. Wow. Okay, so even though I knew that there were ghosts out there, I was like, why would I want to do that? But he really wanted to do it, so we did. And I started having so much fun that I just kept doing it. He kind of got out of it.
Yes.
And that was actually my first, shall we say, official ghost hunt.
Okay.
It was doing that. And the team that I found at the time was Pacific Ghost Hunting Society. Okay. They eventually folded, and some of the members formed Planet Paranormal. Now, the reason for that and the name is my good friend Bob actually purchased Planet Paranormal, which was a radio hub. And it is still going. And you can go to Planet Paranormal and you can listen to a bunch of different paranormal shows, UFO shows, shows about cryptids and things like that.
Yeah.
And it just seemed like a natural progression that if Pacific Ghost Hunting Society went away, we'll just call ourselves Planet Paranormal. And then the rest is history, as they say. And I actually started writing when Bob had mentioned something about doing books, and I had been writing journals of our investigations.
Yes.
Because we take our investigations very seriously.
Yes, yes.
Especially when we're dealing with clients, home cases and things like that. So I would always write down things that were going on. And that way we had something to give to the client if something strange happened. And we could always remember exactly what was going on at the time, at least with whatever group I was in, because sometimes we would split off into groups of 2 or more. While one group would stay in one area of the home or the business, the other group would go off to another area. So at least within the group I was in, we would always have notes that we could look back on and kind of match up. If we had a piece of evidence, what was happening at the time, we could look back through the notes and kind of confirm what was going on. And because of those journals, somebody looked at it and went, did you ever think about being a writer? And I was like, well, I've wanted to be a writer since I was 11, but I wasn't good enough at it. I mean, seriously, if you look at the stuff that I wrote when I was 11, it's just new. They were horrible. But I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a try. So Bob and I started working on California's historic haunts, and we just kept going from there.
Now, when did this all start for you, as far as when you started writing and putting these things together?
I think I finally started to put things together for Cal Haunts was probably in about 2011, I would say, 2010, 2011.
Okay.
And then it took a little while for me to finish the book and then finally get a publisher to print it.
Okay.
So.
And how long now would you say you've been doing these investigations for?
Well, I mean, I've been doing investigations pretty much since I was about 13, 14 years old. But this is going to sound like a funny term because technically I'm not a professional, but I've been doing it professionally, and I'm kind of using that just as a way to emphasize, on a more serious level. Yes. Since 2007.
Okay. And where I met you was in the city of Torrance. I believe it's like the antique.
Yeah, they call it an antique fair. It's actually a swap meet.
Okay, a swap meet in the city of Torrance. Is it the last Sunday of the month, if I'm correct?
The fourth Sunday of every month.
Okay, the fourth Sunday of every month, and that's where I met him. And he had books. Now, other than there, do you go other places and set up and sell?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Every year, well, at least before COVID, Bob and I would set up a booth at Midsummer Scream.
Okay.
Which again, it's coming back this year, so we're looking forward to that. That's one of the largest, or the largest, Halloween convention in the entire country.
Okay.
It'll be the last weekend in July, I believe, this year at the Long Beach Convention Center.
Great.
We actually started off doing this one weird little convention that it no longer even exists when we had 2 books. And we didn't make a whole lot of money, but we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then we graduated to Scare LA.
Okay.
It is no longer running. Midsummer Scream sort of put it out of business.
Okay.
And we do the LA County Fair. We usually pick one weekend where we're there from Thursday to Sunday usually.
Okay.
And they have what's called the Halloween Pavilion. So we'll vend there. Now, my buddy has actually, and Bob is also my co-author for a few of these books. I should have said that off the bat.
Okay.
And he's been dealing with some serious business projects lately, so he's kind of been having to deal with that and put the books and the paranormal kind of on the back burner. And I don't blame him, because we're talking multi-million-dollar deals. Wish I just had a little bit. I'm still poor. So I've been kind of going off on my own as far as vending. Next month, hopefully, I will be setting up a table at Oro Grande Days. That's out in Oro Grande, which is just outside of Victorville. And it's right on Route 66, which is one of the books that I actually just sent to the publisher. And I've done, Long Beach has a weekly outdoor market that I do. I'm going to be doing the Huntington Beach Pier market.
Right.
So I'm kind of graduating and moving up and doing more events.
Okay, great. I'm glad you're here, number one, because when I saw your books, they were very, very intriguing, and there was a couple of them that, like, I just said, wow, you know what? This guy's actually writing about certain locations that are in not only around my neighborhood, but actually in my neighborhood,
One of which is less than a block away, I think.
Yes, and we're going to get into that. So when we were in contact, we spoke over the phone. I asked you, can you please email me certain topics that we can possibly discuss, or that maybe possibly books that you wrote about. So you sent me some of the stuff and some of the topics. So I'm going to start off with the number one topic that I don't think we've covered yet on this show is haunted, or Alcatraz. Mm-hmm. Okay, can you elaborate a little bit? Is Alcatraz haunted?
I usually do not confirm a place as being haunted. Mm-hmm. Alcatraz is one that I will. Now, my team actually had the privilege of spending the night on Alcatraz 2 years in a row, which is something that is very hard to come by. They still allow it, from what I understand, or at least they were before COVID. Now, the way to be able to spend the night on Alcatraz is in November of every year, you would have to put in a bid, and then in December, somebody at Alcatraz, I'm not really sure who, would draw names. If your name was drawn, they would tell you what weekend you were going to be there. You did not have a choice.
Wow.
You either went that weekend or you didn't. Now, back then, I believe it was about $1,800 for the night. It was a Saturday into a Sunday. But you could bring 30 guests with you.
Wow.
Which really wasn't bad if you break up $1,800 divided by 30. It really wasn't all that much.
Right.
So 2 years in a row, we were lucky enough to have friends of ours. 1 year, it was Mark and Debbie Constantino. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No, I'm not.
they had been on ghost adventures quite a bit.
Okay.
And they were involved with a murder-suicide that I don't want to go into.
Okay.
And then the following year, a friend of ours by the name of Dave Schrader, who he won the lottery. So both those years, my team was invited up there. Now, the first year that we went was in 2009, and it was kind of funny. There was an investigation at the Presidio. I can't remember the name of the building, but it was at the Presidio in San Francisco. So we did that and spent the rest of that day, or that night and day, going over our evidence for that particular investigation. Then moved on to Alcatraz. Once we were on Alcatraz, we're like, you know what, we're not going to sleep. This is Alcatraz. We were actually up for more than 40 hours.
Wow.
Because even once we got back from Alcatraz, we're like, okay, we're going to review our evidence because we had so many things happen. One of the amusing things that I will always remember from our first night at Alcatraz was, I think it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30, somewhere around there. I had to go back to our cell to get some batteries because my recorder was dying. Now, I should have said this first. When you're there, you get to sleep in the actual cells on D block.
Wow.
And that includes the strip cells or the isolation cells. Excuse me. Now, remember that all of the people on the island that night, other than the Rangers, were all ghost hunters.
Right.
Okay. Some of which are a little bit more famous than others. So as I'm going back to get the batteries for my recorder, I walk into the cell block, and it's fairly dark, and I start looking around at all of the different cells, and not a single one of them didn't have a nightlight in it. And I just found it so amusing. It's like, wait a minute, I'm on this island with a whole bunch of ghost hunters, and they have to have nightlights in their cell? It was just one of those things that just struck me as really funny.
Right.
But some of the things that happened to us on Alcatraz the first year, the second year, not quite as much activity as the first, but the first year was literally just off the hook. There's an inmate that was the longest serving inmate on Alcatraz by the name of Alvin Karpus. He had the nickname Creepy. He had actually been part of the Barker gang, the Ma Barker gang, and was public enemy number one.
Okay.
Now, his downfall was that he had kidnapped the Ham's beer heir. It turns out that the owner of Ham's Beer, Mr. Ham's, was very good friends with FDR. And when his son was kidnapped, FDR got pissed off and put out a major bulletin. So they really went after Karpus. When Alcatraz was closed down, Karpus ended up going to a prison in Kansas City and was eventually paroled and then moved to Spain. When he passed away, I believe it was like in 1972, sometime around there, he was buried in a crypt that needed to be paid for once a month. Oh, wow. For a year or so, somebody paid for the crypt, but then after that, the gravesite was not paid for. And he was moved to a pauper's grave, and no one knows where. Okay. From the moment his grave was moved, he started showing up in Alcatraz.
Wow.
Now, when Karpus was at Alcatraz, one of the things that he enjoyed was actually working in the galley, the kitchens. So when we were there that night, we kept seeing, and you cannot get into the kitchens now because they're all closed off. But when we were there, we were kind of doing an EVP session, and we kept seeing shadows moving back and forth in the kitchens. We could hear pots and pans being moved, and it sounded like there was somebody in the kitchen working. And I was kind of thinking, I wonder if this is Karpus, because he really did love to be in there. And then we started to hear the old Ham's Beer music. And that's one of the things that Karpus would do when he was around the other inmates, as he would start singing that because he just loved the fact that he kidnapped the Ham's Brewery heir.
Wow.
So that one was kind of interesting. We've all heard of the Birdman of Alcatraz, Robert Stroud. So just as an FYI, Robert Stroud was never allowed birds at Alcatraz. So why he was called the Birdman of Alcatraz, I really don't know.
Okay.
But before he was moved to Alcatraz, he was at Leavenworth, where they did allow him to have birds. And he actually has two books on ornithology that were not allowed to be published until after his death, that are still considered some of the best books on ornithology ever written. So he may have been a cold-blooded killer, but he knew his birds.
Yeah.
I personally do not believe that Stroud haunts Alcatraz because he absolutely hated it there. So unless he's forced there by, if for those who believe in Satan, unless he's forced to stay there, I really doubt he'd go back on his own.
Okay.
Now, Al Capone is said to haunt Alcatraz. And again, Capone did not like Alcatraz, but he did have some good times there because he had joined the prison band. And he actually used to practice, and if I remember right, it was, my brain's not funny, it was either the banjo or the fiddle. I believe it was the fiddle. And he would actually practice down in the showers. And the reason he would practice down there is he was knifed at one point by another inmate who was trying to make a name for himself by stabbing Scarface. So he wouldn't go out into the yards unless nobody else was out there. So when everybody else was out in the yards, he would be in the showers practicing. And at that time, he was also starting to really suffer from syphilis, which was really taking his mental faculties and everything else away from him. That's what he actually ended up dying from.
Yeah.
But I will tell you one thing. When I die, I want Al Capone's travel agent, because that man is seen in so many different places. He's seen in Alcatraz. He's seen in Eastern State Pen. He's seen in Chicago at his old office and apartment, and he's seen at his mansion in Florida. So the man gets around.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I just kind of briefly just wanted you to touch on Alcatraz because I know we could spend a lot there.
Okay. Well, let me just say a couple more things.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we were the first ones to investigate the where the original cell was, which is down in one of the Sally ports, and we discovered a woman down there, and she actually spoke to us both years, same voice. There was a young boy, we're still trying to figure that out, who spoke to us both years in the surgical ward. But the strangest thing, and this is one of the scariest things that have ever happened to me, which is why I wanted to bring it up. We were in the medical isolation ward, and we had done an EVP session in this one room. There's only 3 in there, and only one is accessible. We didn't get anything, but as we were walking out, we started hearing a bunch of noises. And so we're like, what the heck? So we went back in, and the folding metal chairs that we had been sitting in had been moved.
Oh, wow.
So we sat down again, did another EVP session, didn't feel like we were getting anything, walked back out, and as soon as we walked out, we heard the chairs moving around again.
Wow. We
go back in, and they're back in their original spot. We sit down, and my buddy Bob is asking questions, and one of the questions he asked is, or actually it was more of a statement. He said, if you want us to get out, just tell us and we'll get out. At that point, my buddy Ash, who weighed almost 300 pounds, maybe a little bit more, he's sitting in a metal chair. His metal chair slides back about 4 feet, slams into the wall. He flops out, and at the same time the chair was moving, you heard somebody go, get out.
Wow.
Guess what we did?
You got out.
We got out.
Okay.
So, but
wow.
that right there, I would say, was probably the most profound evidence to me that, yeah, there is something out there.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. Part 2, well, not part 2, the second thing that I wanted to bring up was something that some people have already brought up here. One guy said he worked there. Well, we're talking about the Queen Mary. Is the Queen Mary haunted?
Yes.
Okay.
That's one of the only other places I will say that. When we formed Planet Paranormal, well, actually, I should say when Bob purchased Planet Paranormal Radio, they had an office on board the Queen Mary in room B332. Okay. So because of that, we would literally be down at the Queen Mary almost every night. And it got to the point where we would go down to security to ask them, hey, will you let us in here or will you let us in this room? It got to the point where they'd see us coming and they'd just hold up the keys, hand them to us and say, just go have fun. So that was where I had my very first evidence, shall we say, that proved to me that, yeah, I wasn't just imagining my dad being there. There is something else out there. To get into the change rooms of the first class pool area, you have to walk down a corridor that is about 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet long, but only about 3.5 feet wide, and it's completely black. You cannot see anything as you're walking down there. Our team was in there, and they were at the forward end of the pool. The change rooms are at the aft end of the pool, and nobody wanted to go with me, so I'll just go myself. So as I was in the middle of this long, thin corridor, you can actually put your hands up like this and you can touch the walls. Right in my ear, I get, and my earlobe goes while it happened. Now, I turned around and casually walked out. The rest of the team says I ran, but I'll never admit to that. And the rest of the team was just laughing because they had heard it. Now, the spirit was a spirit that Bob had named Grumpy, because that's all he does. He growls at people. So that was one of the, that was the first time that I went, okay, yeah, damn, there really is something. I wasn't just imagining things at home.
Right, right.
Now, over the years, like I said, we had been down there many times investigating. It got to the point where Jackie, she's probably the most famous ghost on the ship. She is a 5-6-year-old little girl who we believe passed away during the Bride and Baby cruises in 1946. She drowned in the second class pool, which is no longer on the ship. We would literally be just walking through the pool, and we would have either fire watch or a security guard with us, and either me or Bob would walk through and go, just passing through, Jackie. And all of a sudden you'd hear her go, okay. And it was just completely audible. And it was hilarious because we would see a fire watch or a security just all of a sudden stop and go, look around like, what the heck? And we just look at him and go, believe it now. So that became commonplace. And then one of the things for me, we had been at a paranormal convention that Dave Schrader from Darkness Radio. He's also the one who fills in for Coast to Coast now.
Oh, okay.
They were having a celebrity auction after dinner, and we were like, yeah, we just don't want to do it. So I had gone down to the green room, which was in a generator room between two of the old boiler rooms. And the reason it was called a green room is because people who were performing on the boiler room stage, that's what where they would rest and get ready and things like that.
Yes.
Now, there's a spirit down there by the name of John Henry, and we believe that he is one of the welders who passed away before or while the ship was being built. And he really likes the ladies. Doesn't really like guys that much, but he really likes the ladies. So I had gone down there by myself because everybody else was, resting or at the auction. And I was kind of being a smart ass. There's a rail just outside the green room, and I was kind of leaning on the rail, and in a kind of a smart alecky voice, I go, so, John Henry, did you miss me? And I said it basically just like that. Right after I said that, I felt something grab my arm, not hard, but, just like letting me know I'm here. And right in my ear, I hear, get out. And it wasn't anything mean. It wasn't anything threatening. It was just like, like you would a friend who just told you a joke you didn't want, just get out type of thing. So, yeah, I pretty much say that the Queen Mary is haunted.
Okay. I know here you also wrote stories about certain Hollywood stars.
Yes. Now that is, and this is my wife's favorite book, Hollywood Obscura.
Okay.
This is 11 stories with 12 of the more famous murders and possible murders in Hollywood history. It spans from Thelma Todd in the 1930s all the way up to Tupac and Biggie in the 90s.
Really?
And it has basically a biography of them, and I didn't pull any punches with the biography or any of it. And then the paranormal aftermath. So some of the stories in there have some interesting changes to them.
Okay.
You're familiar with the Black Dahlia?
Yes.
So who do you think killed the Black Dahlia? Elizabeth Short.
You know, I had my friend Mike Santana here, and we did an episode where we spoke on certain topics like that, the Black Dahlia, and he speculated that it could have been a doctor that lived close by, possibly, who he could have been the only one that could have cut her, drained her blood, etc. But he never said, I believe it was this person. He pretty much just said, people believe or say that it could have been this person. But I personally do not know.
So I'm hoping he is not talking about Dr. Hodel.
Maybe
Okay.
so.
It was definitely not Dr. Hodel.
Okay.
Mr. Hodel is a friend of mine, and he basically just hated his father and wanted his father gone.
Okay.
Okay. Now, his father was a genius. I mean, an actual bona fide genius. And he actually knew when the police were surveilling him and would play with them. Okay. However, your friend may be correct. The person that I have named as the killer in that book, I am 100% convinced he is. Now, I did not come up with this theory. The theory was produced by a retired LA Times investigative reporter by the name of Hirsch and an FBI profiler. And what they came up with is pretty hard to deny.
Okay.
The man was a prominent surgeon. He lived in Leimert Park, about a block away from where the body was dumped. Elizabeth Short's sister had gotten married at the man's house, and his office was right around the corner from the Biltmore Hotel, which was the last place Elizabeth Short was ever seen. So, I'm actually shortening it, but I think if you read that particular part, anybody that reads it and reads their theory, that they're going to be going, oh yeah. I mean, even right down to why he was never caught. So, I don't come out and flat out say, yes, this is him, because, the readers need to decide on their own. I try to never do that with anything. I never say something is most certainly haunted or that this is actually the person, it's up to the readers to decide. I just give them the information.
Yes.
You've heard of Bugsy Siegel.
Yes.
He was not killed by the mob.
Oh, okay.
He was going to be, but he wasn't.
Right. I know. I'm going off of the movie because I never did my own research on this. But in part of the movie, I guess he was sitting on his couch. Somebody shot him from the outside, hit him in his head.
He was actually sitting in his girlfriend's mansion in Beverly Hills, Virginia Hill, and somebody from the outside did shoot him with an M1 carbine. And one of the shots actually blew his left eye out.
Wow.
However, it was actually over a very bizarre love triangle. And it was by a man by the name of Moose who shot him. Again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but he probably was going to be assassinated by the mob because he wasn't embezzling, like all the stories say, but he was overspending.
Yeah. That's what I heard as well. Now, is that house still there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of it in the book. And I'm trying to remember remember the name of it, but you can. It's actually fairly easy to find, and all you have to do is Google Bugsy Siegel's murder location or something like that. And it'll tell you exactly where it is.
Okay.
The Manson murders are in the book, and some of the things with that I found very disturbing and naturally so. A lot of people do not think that Manson should have ever been charged because he didn't actually murder anybody.
Right.
But he actually is the one that cut Hinman's ear off. He's actually the one that captured the LaBiancas and tied them up. And then brought Tex Watson in and the others to do the deed. So, yeah, he basically did murder them. He did shoot a drug dealer who he thought he had killed, but found out that he didn't. So yeah, anybody that says that Manson didn't deserve what he got, no, he did.
Okay.
Especially, I mean, I go into a lot of detail about his upbringing and what he did. A lot of people don't know that when he was being released from Terminal Island prison, that he begged them not to release him because he knew he was gonna.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. Now let me ask you this, and every once in a while I'll ask one of my guests this question. Say, for an example, that all these guys were alive. Let's just say Charles Manson, Richard Ramirez, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and there's one more that I'm forgetting right now.
You name it, John Wayne Gacy.
Okay, John Wayne Gacy, okay. If you had an opportunity to interview one of them, who would it be?
Manson. Okay. The reason being is that Manson was an extremely intricate individual. He was very intelligent. He was an avid reader. He knew he shouldn't have been let out because he had been institutionalized.
Right.
He had an ability that was equivalent to Hitler as far as being able to convince people to follow him. This is going to sound really bad, but I found him to be fascinating. Not what he did or what he caused to happen, just the psychology of Charles Manson.
Do you think that when people interviewed him, because there was times like when Geraldo Rivera interviewed him, he got up and started dancing and moving. Do you think that was just an act that he was showing them? He never really fully showed himself, or do you believe that was him?
I think it was a little bit of both.
Okay.
Because he was definitely a showman.
Okay.
And one of the things that a lot of people don't know, and the book is, or I should say, Carnegie. Charles Manson learned how to do most of that by reading Charles Carnegie? Well, Andrew Carnegie's book, How to Influence People, while he was in prison in Terminal Island.
Wow.
So him being institutionalized actually taught him to be able to do what he did.
Okay. It's funny because my thing is this, that say that somebody offered me that opportunity to go and interview one of these guys. I would be honest with you. I would go in knowing or believing that these guys are not going to tell me the truth. I believe they're just going to tell me whatever I want to hear. I probably want to interview Richard Ramirez. And I've been trying my hardest to try to get a hold of the detective that was on the Netflix special that arrested and booked Richard Ramirez. So I'm working on that right now still. But my whole thing, believe it or not, because this is a guy that in court said, "Hail Satan." Okay, he had the pentagram on his hand. I really wonder if he was a real Satanist or that was just some stupidity that he just did. And if he was a real Satanist, I would want to know how he got started in that. What introduced him, what inspired, what motivated him to do that?
Well, one of the things that I think is kind of interesting about that is if you talk to most Satanists, most of them don't believe in Satan.
Really?
Most of them are Satanists due to wanting to counteract Christianity.
Okay.
And the reason I know this is I have a few friends who are actually Satanists.
Okay.
And because of that, I've kind of delved a little bit into the church, and I don't understand their train of thought. It's like, how can you? It'd be like calling yourself a Christian and not believing in Christ, because it's like, it doesn't make any sense. But they do it as a way to try and embarrass Christians and other religions who believe in any form of God. So they are not inherently evil. Mainstream Satanists are not looking to go out and praise Satan or do things that Satan might like. But then there are certain sects, shall we say, that may be.
Right.
So it's possible that Ramirez was just confused, or he was part of a sect that actually, did believe in Satan and Satan's works and things like that.
I have met certain Satanists that this is what they told me. Some do believe that Lucifer is a person, fallen angel, the way they believe that the Bible describes him. Others, Satanists, I come to find out, I thought, because I didn't know, all Satanists were all the same. No, Satan is just a force, energy or something of that sort. So that kind of confused me, because I thought, they've all believed the same, but obviously they don't.
No, not even close. I've been doing research. I don't know if you have heard of the Satanic Panic of the 1980s.
No.
It was just, the entire country thought that Satan was everywhere. The McMartin preschool case here in Manhattan Beach was all part of the Satanic Panic. So I've started to do some research on Satanism, the different sects and things like that. I haven't gotten deep into it yet, because I've got so many other books that I'm working on. But it's an interest to me to kind of bring the Satanic Panic to people, to try and make them aware that, just because a group of people do something, don't make it this giant, because it destroyed lives. Literally destroyed lives throughout the entire country. At that time, all you had to do is say somebody was a Satanist, and all of a sudden they were being arrested, trumped up charges and everything else. It was really a very dark time in our country for that. Yeah.
In any of your books, or possibly in this book that you're possibly putting together, have you done any research, or would there be any mention of Anton LaVey, who wrote the Satanic Bible?
There would probably be a mention, but, and this is going to sound kind of weird too, but Anton LaVey kind of gets a bad rap in a lot of ways. Yeah, he was a Satanist, and he believed in occult practices and things like that, but he was not one of these that was trying to get people to go out and commit crimes and things like that, like people are saying he was. So it's kind of hard to mention Satanism without mentioning Anton LaVey, because he was such a instrumental character in the whole thing. That it's almost impossible to mention it without mentioning him. Okay.
That would be another guy that I wouldn't mind interviewing, and talking to. I've seen a couple of his YouTube videos. The way he talks sounds very intelligent.
He was very intelligent.
Actually, he hung out with the Rat Pack, Sammy Davis, and those guys. He was actually, I think he even did a cameo on one of their movies or something like that. But did you ever hear, supposedly, I don't know if it was his sister or somebody that shared something about when she was there at his deathbed when he died? It's on YouTube. Anton LaVey's final words, and his sister, I believe it's his sister or a family member, when they were there, that he was just looking up as he was laying, and he kept saying, "Oh no, oh no, oh no, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. What did I do? What did I do?" And he died.
Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Okay. Now, so we talked about Alcatraz, Queen Mary. We talked about Hollywood stars. This is interesting. Universal Studios. Okay. Well, why was that on the list?
Probably because, okay, I've got it here.
There it is.
Probably because of this.
Okay.
All right. Now, this book came about kind of in an amusing way. Bob's son-in-law had never been to Universal Studios. His daughter and his son-in-law were living in Tennessee at the time, and they were coming out for a visit. So Bob asked me if I wanted to go along while he took his daughter and son-in-law to Universal Studios. I'm like, Universal Studios? Hell yeah. So I went along with him. Now, me being me, as soon as I walked through the gates, I thought to myself, I wonder if the place is haunted.
Yeah.
So I have absolutely no problem just going up and starting to talk to people. So while Bob went off with his son-in-law and brother and daughter, I started grilling the employees.
Oh, okay.
So I think the first place I went was the studio store, which is just off to the left as you come in the gate.
Yes.
And I went up to one of the employees and I said, question for you. Is this place haunted? She started looking around. She's like, yeah, it is.
Oh, wow.
And I just kind of went, okay, can you give me, and she started telling me about it. But the whole time she was looking around. Apparently, management is not keen on talking about the ghosts. So I was thinking, if this one is, I wonder if anything else is. So I pretty much spent the whole day just talking to employees about ghosts and things like that. And so I kind of went to Bob and I went, Bob, this place is haunted. And he's all, what? And I'm like, this place is haunted. We're going to write about it. And that basically started it. A couple days later, I went out and bought a year-long pass for my daughter and my wife and I, and we started going. I mean, it was really horrible writing that book. I had to keep going to Universal Studios and have fun. I couldn't stand it. But it got to the point where I'd be walking around and one of the employees would just go, hey, look, it's the ghost dude. So they actually started to recognize me over there, which I found kind of amusing. And then the funniest thing is a man I have known for years, Sid Schultz, when we were talking to him, Bob and I were talking to him, he goes, yeah, I was in the Waterworld show. We're like, what? He goes, yeah, I was Deacon in the Waterworld show. And so he starts telling us about how he had seen ghosts before he became Deacon. He worked in the Back to the Future ride, and had seen the little girl who haunts the place there. He started telling us that the head of Universal Studios' wife was really into paranormal investigating, and I'm still jealous as hell. Sid is the only one that's ever been officially allowed to investigate Universal Studios. Oh. And yeah, I'm jealous.
Wow.
But every single one of the ghost stories in the book is from one of the employees.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. Now, you know what? Before we go on, I know we have your name out there, Brian Clune, and also brianclune.com. Mm-hmm. Is that where they can purchase these?
Actually, I do not have a store on my website yet.
Okay.
The best place to buy it is actually on Amazon. Because that's actually the cheapest. And I don't mind saying that because I get paid by the wholesale price, and Amazon still has to pay for it, so I still get money every time they sell one.
Yeah.
Or you can actually walk into any bookstore, and they'll be able to order it for you if they don't have it. Okay, you guys. Once again, Amazon or any bookstore, and let them ask them about the Brian Clune collection. There you go. And but also on the website, what can people see on your website? Okay. So my website is still fairly new. Okay. And I sort of had to stop adding stuff to it because my publisher has me working on 2 books, and they both have a deadline of the end of this month. Okay. I managed to get Haunted Route 66 into them last week, but I'm still working on the final edits for Haunted Southern California. But one of the one of the things that I really enjoy about the website is I've started a blog on the website,
Yes.
and I write under the name of the Paratraveler. And what I mean by that is my blogs focus on individual towns. Right now, I have 2 San Diego ones up, and the reason for that is San Diego's so big I had to split it between the Old Town section and New San Diego, basically.
Okay.
So what I do is I try and make sure that people can go have some fun and have their own paranormal weekend without having to join a tour or a group or something like that. So my blog will tell you the places you can stay that are haunted, what rooms you can stay in to try and get the best haunt, haunted restaurants in the area if there are any, like Cafe Coyote, which by the way has the best chilerianos I've ever had, down in Old Town Village, is definitely haunted. Fred's across the street is another restaurant that's haunted. So I try and tell you where you can stay that's haunted, where you can eat that's haunted, and then things you can do that are haunted. San Diego, case in point, is go to the Whaley House, reportedly very haunted. The Star of India, the USS Midway. So it's designed so people can just go for a weekend, have a good time, try and do their own paranormal investigations, or just go and try and get a good scare, or just have fun with the paranormal.
Okay. So once again, everybody, that's brianclune.com, and that's on his blog section, correct?
Yes.
If you guys want to get away, with friends, family, whatever, you guys can now enjoy a nice haunted stay at somewhere. So,
absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, one more before we go to break. We're going to take a 5-minute intermission break, but Haunted San Pedro. You submitted that.
I did.
Okay.
Okay. So before I start, Haunted San Pedro is actually not the city proper as it stands today, but the original Rancho San Pedro.
Okay.
So it stretches from the Dominguez Rancho at Avalon and the 91 freeway.
Okay.
Alameda and the 91 freeway. Goes through parts of Carson, Wilmington, Harbor City, San Pedro proper, up to Point Fermin and around to the Point Vicente Lighthouse.
Okay. Is the lighthouse haunted?
Which one?
The one in San Pedro.
Well, there's 2.
Okay. One of them is...
So there's the Point Fermin Lighthouse. That's the one that is on the cover of the book. And I can't say for certain that it is haunted, but one of the guys that I worked with at the city of Torrance used to be one of the workers for the city of LA at that Point Fermin Lighthouse, and he stated that yes, it was. So some of the stories that I came up with, were about the old lighthouse keeper, the last one that was there, still being there, still wanting to try and light the lights and things like that. Then there's a couple weird stories, like this weird cat lady who would feed all of the cats up at Point Fermin. Everybody would get mad at her because the cats would keep coming around. And then after she died, people claimed to have seen the cats on the day of her death and the time of her death just basically stand up on their hind paws and just stand there for a few moments as a tribute to her. And supposedly this happens every year. Now, yeah, I find it a little bit, hard to believe.
Right.
But I don't judge when I'm writing these stories.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Now, the Point Vicente Lighthouse, I did write the ghost stories, but I do not believe that the lighthouse itself is haunted.
Okay.
It turns out that when the light was rotating, every time it would rotate toward the homes, the people would get upset. So what they did is they painted the backside of the light room.
Mm-hmm.
So after that is when the ghost started. Every time the light would go past the painted area, a ghost would appear.
Oh.
So, it's one of those things where I believe it's more urban legend than anything else. But again, I don't judge the stories, so I put all of the different stories in the book.
Okay. Really quick, there was you know what? we'll pick up where we left off because I wanna ask you about the Vanderlip's home. So
Absolutely.
okay, everybody, we're gonna take a 5-minute intermission break. Once again, call someone and let them know that Freaky Tales' podcast is live on the air right now, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. And then welcome back, everyone, to a Freaky Tales podcast on this Freaky Friday. And I'm here with my very special guest, Brian Clune. Once again, author, paranormal investigator. And we're going to go ahead and jump right back into it. Where we had left off, we were talking about San Pedro, haunted San Pedro. But now, Palos Verdes, or to be more specific, some people know it as PV. There was a home for many, many years. As a kid growing up, we always heard that there was a house called the Vanderlip's home. Supposedly there was murders there or whatnot. What is that place haunted, or what was the history of that?
So, the Vanderlip Mansion is basically urban legend.
Okay.
There were never any murders there. There was never any violence or anything like that I could ever find in any history. However, old man Vanderlip, when he was getting up there in age, got a little, shall we say, senile. And the man wasn't the type to go out and get a lot of sun. And when he started to go senile, he would actually wander around in just his white skivvies.
Okay.
Okay. And since kids were already going up there, I mean, let's face it, most people look at a mansion and say, oh, it's got to be haunted.
Yeah.
So it had already started up, as it had to be this haunted location because it was kind of, especially back in the early days, was out in the middle of nowhere, and
Yeah.
and then seeing a guy from afar who is pasty white wearing pasty white underwear. He was most likely the catalyst for the ghosts. But yeah, I mean, I've talked to some of the Vanderlips. I did extensive research on the Vanderlip estate for the book, and then thought, you know what, there's just nothing here. It's just all urban legend and tales from locals.
Yeah, because I remember in the 80s, I was like, I want to say in junior high school. And I was talking to guys that were my age. Oh, yeah, you got to go out there. It's haunted. You know?
You and me both.
Okay, there you go. So
yeah, I had when I was growing up, I had always wanted to go there because of how haunted I heard it was.
Yeah.
But then reality kind of set in when I was doing research. I'm like, darn it.
Yeah, we wanted it to be real.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anything else pertaining to San Pedro at all?
I don't know how many people are aware, but one of the most famous cases in paranormal history happened in San Pedro.
Really?
It happened in the late 80s.
Okay.
And it's known by a couple different names, the haunting on 11th Street, or the haunting of Jackie Hernandez, or the haunting of San Pedro.
Oh, wow.
Now, the story goes, and we've all heard of the entity case that happened in Culver City.
Yes.
So the same man, Dr. Barry Taff, who investigated the entity case, was also the one who began the investigation for Jackie Hernandez. Now, Hernandez did not call him. One of her neighbors called because she saw the ghost of the man that had been bothering Jackie standing in the middle of the street, and it freaked her out. So it wasn't even Jackie Hernandez that called.
Okay.
So once they got over there, Barry Taff had to step out for family reasons, and Barry Conrad took over the case.
Right.
So things started getting a little bit weird, and most people may have seen the photo of Jet Wheatcraft hanging by his neck from a wire in the rafters. It's actually a fairly well-known photo. You can type in Google Jeff Wheatcraft hanging or one of those, and you'll see the photo, and you'll recognize it.
Okay.
But one of the strangest things about this is there was this weird substance oozing out of the walls. And they managed to get a sample of it and send it to the UCLA forensics lab, and it came back as human blood plasma.
Wow.
Okay. Now, Jackie tried to flee the ghost. She had moved to Weldon, California, which is up by the Kernville area, just outside
from San Pedro to Weldon.
To Weldon, just up the mountains by Bakersfield. And at one point, she saw the face of the ghost that had been haunting her in a TV that was not plugged in.
Wow.
So she called Wheatcraft and my friend Barry back up. They did a Ouija session, and at that time, the chair that Jeff was sitting in started to levitate, and it slammed him back into the roof where the walls meet.
Wow.
Okay, so he
And when you say Ouija, you're talking about the Ouija board session.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow,
an actual
okay.
Ouija board session, which, by the way, the Ouija gets a very bad rap. After that, she moved back to San Pedro, but not the same house.
Okay.
At which point she said a ball of light appeared to her, and she followed it to the little cemetery at the end of Grant, and I believe it's 23rd Street.
Yeah.
Okay, and hovered over the grave of the man who owned the house where she had been haunted. Now,
Wow.
and she said it was the spirit's way of letting her know that she's going to be left alone.
Okay.
Now, here's something strange, though. I wrote about this in Haunted San Pedro, went to the cemetery to see if I could snap a picture of the grave. Now, you've been there, I would imagine?
No, I haven't.
It's this little tiny cemetery. There's really not too many people there, and I could not find this man's grave. It was November, and I was wearing a big, thick jacket. I had my little cursed bobblehead with me, Wyatt. I should have brought him in. He's going to be mad. And my camera. And I had gotten up there maybe at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was trying to find the grave. It started to get warm, so I was trying to find a place where I could set the camera down and Wyatt so I could take my jacket off.
Yeah.
So I see this nice gravestone. I said, okay, that'll work. So I start walking toward that gravestone, and all of a sudden, it felt like a nail had gone through my foot.
Really?
I mean, the pain was just like, I was cussing, I was swearing. I mean, it hurt. And so I looked down at my foot. There's nothing there. But I look at the gravesite. It was the one I had been trying to find.
Wow.
Which I just found very bizarre.
Wow.
Coincidence, maybe, but it was just really kind of interesting.
And when did all this take place? Like the Jackie Hernandez, is that what you
Yeah, the Jackie Hernandez case happened in from 1988 to about 91, give or take.
Okay.
And she was actually on, I believe it was the Johnny Carson show, talking about the case. Now, Dr. Taff does not believe that it was actually a spirit, but was latent telekinetic ability, like the entity case, which, by the way, there was no ghost in the entity case. There was no entity. But I cannot subscribe to that theory, considering the human blood plasma oozing out of the walls.
Right.
So,
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's pretty freaky right there.
yeah.
Okay, now we bring it a little bit home this way. We're going to talk about the Banning house, the Banning mansion here. What can you tell me from there? And I'm just going to flat out ask you, is it haunted?
I cannot say for sure, but I've been there 4 or 5 times. I've never had anything happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Right.
I do know that folks in the area have claimed to hear phantom horse clops and carts being pulled. Mm-hmm. And at least one employee says that, yeah, the place is haunted. But one thing I do want to dispel about it. Mm-hmm. There is an urban legend that Phineas Banning has been seen at the desk that he used to plan his battle strategy. He was never a general or an admiral. Those were all honorary. Oh. So he would not have been planning any kind of battle strategy anywhere. And as a matter of fact, he preferred the title of admiral over general anyway. Mm. So nobody would see him over a war maps planning any kind of strategy. So that just wouldn't have happened.
Okay. And now, have you talked to anybody, and have they give you any stories other than the sounds? Did they see? Have they seen anything?
Not really. The only thing I can tell you is the same things that anybody could find online.
Okay.
but I love the history of it. Now, I do know that the Banning House Inn over at Two Harbors on Catalina, I have heard a lot of stories about that, and that was owned by the Banning family.
Okay.
But I have not been able to get over there yet.
Okay.
So.
Okay. The drum barracks here.
Okay, so the drum barracks, I'm going to say I believe it might be.
Okay.
We've all heard the stories of the little boy who will toss balls down the stairs. We've heard the stories of, and I'm not sure how many people know, but that was actually the junior officers' barracks. So it was more of a house than a barracks. So that's where the junior officers lived.
Okay.
Okay. So we've heard the stories of junior officers appearing, and all of those different things, you know, the sounds of men on parade outside, things like that. Now, my wife and I went over there, God, this must have been in 2009 or 2010.
Okay.
And I brought my recorder with me because I wanted to make sure that when I took the tour, I could remember what the tour guide was saying about the history.
Okay.
So I get it home, and I start going through the audio, and I start hearing what sounded like zither music, or some sort of a keyboard instrument. And I'm like, what the heck was that? I don't remember any music being played. So I cut it out, and I sent the clip to Susan Ogle, who was the museum director at the time, who was very anti-ghost. She didn't want to have anything. She was also very anti-Yankee, but we won't go there.
Okay.
So I sent it to her and said, do you have an instrument that sounds like this? And she says, she sends it back, and she goes, yes, but it's been broken for more than 30 years. So, you know, that kind of leads me to believe, okay, nobody's going to be playing that on the radio.
Right.
You know, and it was definitely that old style music that you would hear from the mid 1800s to, you know, at the time of the Civil War.
Okay. Okay. You know.
Now, I don't, just a bit of history, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
A lot of people don't know that Phineas Banning actually donated that land to the U.S. government where they built the drum barracks, and it became the largest and most complete fort during the Civil War of any fort in existence. So
Interesting. Before we continue, before we touch on the last subject that you submitted, I just want to ask you some questions. And you tell me whether you believe yes, no, or can I elaborate?
Gotcha.
Okay. Do you believe Bigfoot exists?
Can I elaborate?
Yes, sir.
So people have been trying to find Bigfoot forever.
Yes.
We now have technology that can pinpoint the heat signature of a pot plant in a fern forest, but we can't find the heat signature of Bigfoot.
Thank you. Yeah. So, okay. Do you believe in aliens?
Although I am going to be going Bigfoot hunting. Don't ask me that. Just we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Okay. You believe in aliens / UFOs?
I believe in UFOs, but not necessarily that they're alien in origin. As far as aliens themselves, I think it's very self-centered of us to believe that we're the only living beings in this giant universe. So, yeah, I do believe that there are other living creatures out there, but the technology to get to even the next galaxy, for us, we have the technology as far as matter-antimatter engines. The problem is it would take so much matter compared to the antimatter that there's just not enough to even do it. So the technology for us to get here seems a bit, or for them to get here, I should say, seems a bit much, but I'm trying to keep an open mind.
Okay. Okay. What about what people call shadow people?
At first, I didn't believe in them, but then I did see one, but only one. Are you familiar with Dementors from the Harry Potter movies?
I believe so, yes.
This thing looked exactly like a Dementor. It did not look like an actual ghost. It was completely black, and it sort of flew up some stairs. It scared me a little bit because it basically flew into the window of the room we were staying in at the Silver Queen Hotel in Virginia City. But again, it's hard to say since I've only seen one.
Okay, fair enough. Do you believe the devil, El Diablo, exists?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe ghosts, spirits, EVPs?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that demonic possession, a person could be demonically possessed?
I do, but I do not believe it is as often as people want you to believe.
Okay.
If I can elaborate. To me, one of the greatest gifts God gave us was free will. The devil cannot just possess you. Ghosts cannot just possess you unless you allow it. And there is a certain series of steps that an evil being has to go through to possess somebody. Unless, of course, you're one of those people who just likes evil and just says, yeah, come on in.
Yeah. Okay. Haunted houses.
Yes.
Is there haunted apartments
Oh, yeah.
and condos?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I always hear the haunted houses, never haunted apartments.
Now, I have a really interesting story about that. And
Care to share?
sure. You know what a spirit box is?
Yes.
Okay. They started off as a Frank's box with this man right here inventing them, Frank Sumption. Basically, it's a broken radio. I did not believe in them. Okay. I thought, man, this is a joke. So we had been called to an apartment down in San Diego for this one kid, nice kid. And he didn't really want us to do anything with the ghost. He was just wondering if there was one there. Okay. So Bob brought his Frank's box, which was one of the original ITC devices that Frank developed. And we were doing an ITC session in the kid's bedroom, which is where he said the majority of the activity happens. Now, Bob was asking questions. I'm really going to shorten this. And at first, the spirit box, Bob was asking if there was anybody there, and he meant in the spirit world.
Yes.
And the spirit box said Richard. And then it said Richard again, and Richard again. Didn't think anything of it. Then Bob said, is there anybody else? And the box started to say Andrew and reiterated the word Andrew. And then Bob said, Richard and Andrew are with you? And it said, no, with you. At which point I went, and Bob was kind of looking at me, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I'm not in front of the client, not in front of the client.
Right.
And then it started to say Smith, Richard Andrew Smith. And my jaw hit the ground. And later on, Bob asked me what was wrong. This is after we left. And I'm like, Bob, you didn't know I was adopted, did you? And he's like, no. I said, you also didn't know that my name before I was adopted was Richard Andrew Smith, did you?
Oh, wow.
And so it kept saying Richard Andrew Smith with you. So that one kind of freaked me out a little bit. But since then, I've kind of like, okay, maybe I better rethink the whole spirit box thing.
Yeah. Wow.
And then later on that same evening, the kid asked us to smudge, which smudging is way overused. But the client wanted it, so we did. We had so much smudge smoke going. I don't know how we didn't have the fire department called on us.
What exactly is smudge for our viewers that may not know what that is?
So what smudging does is it supposedly cleans an area of unwanted spirits, usually evil spirits. The problem is it's a Native American ritual or a Hindu ritual. I believe there are some Asian religions that use it, but if you try and to me, it would be like using a Christian ritual to try and get rid of a Muslim spirit. They're just going to go, what? You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
So, you have to take religious aspects into account when dealing with spirits.
Okay.
So we're we're doing the smudging, and all of a sudden we hear, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind, but I'm going to say his name, Kilbasi. His name was Kilbasi. All of a sudden we hear, Kilbasi, stop, Kilbasi. And we're like, what the heck was that? We go back into his room. Bob had forgotten to turn the box off.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
Wow.
the whole thing was kind of a wake-up call for me to kind of be a little bit more open-minded to the spirit box.
Okay. Levitation. Do you believe that's real?
I'll have to circle back on that.
Okay. Do you believe chupacabras is real?
Chupacabras, no. But the Texas Blue Dogs, yes. And I believe what they most likely are completely natural. I believe they're interspecies breeding.
Okay. La Llorona. Have you?
No.
Okay.
And the reason for that is now there may have been a spirit that happened to, but a spirit that can lure people. Again, if somebody is so weak-willed that a spirit can lure you to do anything, then you just need to,
Right. Okay. Bloody Mary.
No.
Okay. Do you believe tarot cards are real?
Yes.
Okay.
But I believe the tarot card is only a conduit to a person's own ability.
Okay. Crystal balls that people can see.
I don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. It's basically just a scrying device, and
Okay.
I have not really studied up on it.
Okay. Let's go back now to what you have submitted, and this is number 7, and this is Route 66. Can you please elaborate and share with us Route 66?
So, Route 66 is, and most people know this, is one of the most, if not the most famous roads in existence.
Okay.
Right? Now, it has its origins from the mid 1920s. And in California, a lot of people trying to get to the Pacific Ocean didn't make it going through the Mojave Desert. All right. I mean, back then in Model A's, Model T's, if they were going through the summer, they're hitting temperatures of 108 and up. In cars that had no air conditioning, some of them didn't have tops, so the sun was beating down on them. And that breeds a lot of spirit activity. Even if folks did make it, they would always remember that particular aspect of the road probably for the rest of their life, because it was just horrendous if you're there during the summer. Even during the winter, it can get, nasty out there. So some of the areas in that part of Route 66, Goffs, which is now just this little out-of-the-way place that nobody even knows about because most people don't even go down that section of Route 66, has a little tiny cemetery where spirits are known to still wander, and a phantom train that can be heard just passing by. Originally, Route 66 followed the railroads because the surveying had already been done, and the railroads would make the easiest, not the most direct, but the easiest route to their location. So they built the mother road right along the railroads.
Okay.
And then they would change alignments, and I mean, there are more alignments in California than in any other section or any other state.
Okay.
For Route 66. There are also a lot of really haunted locations.
Really?
For anybody that wants some good drinks and some pretty decent finger food, go to the Aztec Hotel. It was built in the mid 1930s, and it's the only Mayan revival architecture left in the country. It's no longer open as a hotel, but it is quite haunted. The Hollywood Forever Cemetery, if folks don't know about that, there are so many movie stars buried there. that you can spend a day or two just wandering the tombstones, and looking at the stars that are buried there. One of my favorites is Mel Blanc, the voice of Looney Tunes.
Okay.
And the Porky Pig. It says on his tombstone, "That's all, folks." So you got to love that.
Yeah.
But Virginia Rapé, who I believe was accidentally killed by Fatty Arbuckle, it's said that if you put your hand on her gravestone, you can feel her heartbeat. You have Clifton Webb, who was in quite a few movies in the 50s. He is actually quite often seen leaning against his marker in one of the mausoleums. The Suicide Bridge. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No, I'm not.
The Colorado Street Bridge, or is now known as the Pasadena Suicide Bridge. So many people have committed suicide there that they were finally they finally had to erect a suicide fence, and that hasn't even stopped them. It's one of the tallest bridges in California, as far as
just to ask, and I don't know if you can share something like that, where people continuously go to commit suicide there. Do you think it's something there drawing those people there, or do you think just people just find it's the highest one? Let me go kill myself. What do you think it is?
I think that anybody who is determined to kill themselves are going to find a way to do it, and jumping is one of the easiest ways to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you also have the reputation drawing people, because it was named the Suicide Bridge like only a year or so after it was opened. So it's been drawing people just because of the name. But it is said that all kinds of spirits haunt the lower sections, or underneath the bridge, which are now walking trails. It's said that people are seen wandering aimlessly along the sidewalks of the bridge. So that's one of the saddest things that I've written about, especially in that book. The Santa Monica Pier is said to be haunted.
Really?
One of the spirits is actually Marilyn Monroe. She can be found in the Loaf, and I always wonder if I'm pronouncing that right, Looff, Loof, Hippodrome, which is where the carousel is. It's said that if you look in the mirrors of the carousel, you will see her sitting in the bench next to the gift stand, the gift shop. There is also a spirit that is seen riding the Sea Dragon, which is one of these giant swinging rides, and a dark entity. And when I say dark, I don't necessarily mean bad or evil. It's just he just appears as what some people might call a shadow person, but since nobody really knows, I just basically call it a dark entity. Okay. He's seen running on the roofs. On the rooftops.
Wow. Okay. Any other specific locations that you might have written about that maybe we didn't bring up or you didn't submit here that you care to elaborate on? For an example, I had a guest here last week that said that it has been documented that the one in San Pedro you mentioned. You mentioned it was one of the haunted places in San Pedro. I almost said I wanted not
Warner Grand.
No,
which by the way is haunted.
Okay, no, it was God. She just brought it because I want to say not the Winchester. That's the one up north, correct?
Yeah.
Have you been there?
The Winchester. Yeah, I don't believe it's haunted, to be honest with you.
Okay, supposedly.
Although I want to write about it.
Okay, but there was one. The one you mentioned right before we went to break. Let me see if I still have her notes here. But she had said.
I mentioned it before break.
Yeah, mentioned before breaks in San Diego.
Oh, the Whaley House.
The Whaley House.
Okay, you said San Pedro, so I was a little.
My apologies.
So yeah, the Whaley House.
Is it supposedly the most haunted place in America?
No. So that is an urban legend that sprung up out of a Interior Department advertisement.
Okay.
Okay. So back in the late 30s, early 40s, they were trying to bring business down to San Diego because at that time San Diego was failing. The city was going bankrupt. So they were just trying to bring people down there. So one of the advertisements was for Old Town, and they had mentioned the Whaley House as being a possible haunted location you could visit. Well, with each retelling of that advertisement, it grew and grew and grew until folks started saying, well, yeah, did you hear Congress declared it the most haunted house in America? That just isn't it. It's just a story that grew out of proportion.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, you know, it's funny because now let me ask you this. When it comes to like ghosts and all these things, we spoke a little bit about this before we went live. Are you a skeptic? Are you a true believer in?
Okay. So I am a true believer in spirits because I have just had so many things happen to me over the years that I cannot deny it.
Right.
My skepticism comes from what people tell me. Being a paranormal investigator, I know just how rare spirit activity is. So for people to, especially on Facebook, where you read, I just went to the most haunted place. It was so active. I've never been to a place that haunted in my life. And then 2 days later, oh my God, I just went to this other place. It's the most haunted place in my... Ghosts are just dead people. They don't act on cue. And I mean, it seems... And I've told the guys at work before I retired, when they say, well, what's it like to be a paranormal investigator? I say it's 99% boredom with that 1% of the time going, oh my God, something happened. You know, and most of the time it's just us sitting in a dark room by ourselves, talking to ourselves.
Wow.
So
my next question is, why do you do it?
Because of that 1%.
That 1%.
The first time I had something happen to me that just really brought it home was Grumpy. And it was like, oh my God, what was that? I want it to happen again. So I went out and I wanted it to happen again. Then when I caught my first audible, was at the Jerome Grand Hotel, of a spirit in the corner. As I was staring at it, there was nobody there, and you just hear, ouch! It was like, what the? And then when you get that first Class A EVP, and you know that there was nobody talking at the time, you just kind of go, oh my God. But those are few and far between.
Yeah. Okay. Before we put the number on the screen, I'm going to bring up a movie that I found very interesting. And since you're a paranormal investigator, have you ever met anyone that has experienced something that active, like the movie, I believe it's 1409?
No.
Okay.
Just no.
Okay. So that's just pure Hollywood.
Yeah, that's just pure Hollywood. And, you know, I'm friends with a lot of them and know just about all of them. And I'm talking about the people on TV,
okay,
the TV shows. And I've been on pretty much every single one of the shows. What you see on TV is entertainment. Like Ghost Adventures, we kind of got into a snit with them because we appeared on the Queen Mary episode, and then they said that everything on the Queen Mary was a demon. There are no demons on the ship. So you can't take what you see on TV as what it's actually like unless it's the first 3.5 seasons of Ghost Hunters. The first 3.5 seasons of Ghost Hunters was basically like it truly is. In other words, they found virtually nothing on any show, got virtually no evidence on any show, and the producers said, we're not getting anything, let's start making it up.
Okay. All right. Sounds about right. At this point, we're going to go ahead.
But it is entertainment.
Yes. At this point, we're going to go ahead and put the number on the screen. So you guys have been waiting to call. If you guys have a question for me or for Brian, or you want to elaborate on something he might have shared, or maybe you guys got something you guys want to share, the number is up on the screen. Go ahead and call. Please keep your conversation no more than 2 minutes, please. We're going to try to squeeze everybody in. So the number's up on the screen. Go ahead and call, and we're ready to receive calls. Once again, share your story, or ask Brian a question, or ask me a question, and we'll take it from there. Until we get our first call, we're just going to continue talking. And once again, you can pick up those books at Amazon.com, and you can check out his website, BrianClune.com. BrianClune.com. So once again, the number's on the screen. A lot of you guys were hitting me up on Instagram, telling me you guys are going to call. You guys are going to call. So right now is the time, and we have our first caller. Let me see. Okay, let me see. Oh, shoot. You know what? I'm connecting it right now. Connected right now. That was my mistake. Okay, Roadcaster. Okay, let's see. Connected for audio. Done. Let's answer. Hello. Is anybody there? Make sure the headphone jack is up. Hello. Guys were hitting me up on Instagram. Okay, they hit. Okay, call. On the call. Here it is again. Hello.
Thank you for using callmylostphone.com.
Hello. Okay, I don't know who that was. Okay,
Probably
everybody.
a spam call.
Yeah. Somebody playing games. Okay, here we go. Hello.
Tony, it's Norbert. I have a question for the guest.
Yes, Norbert. Go ahead and ask.
I wanted to ask him if he knows if he could confirm any of the rumors of Los Angeles County owning buildings that have basements dedicated to satanic rituals.
Okay, and what building was this again?
I heard somebody that used to live in Boyle Heights, really older gentleman, told me that there's one building there that he knew was dedicated for a satanic ritual, because when he was a kid, he snuck into that basement and ran quickly right out of it. And he knew that was always burned into his memory.
Okay, and this was in Boyle Heights.
Yes.
Okay, have you heard of that?
I have a few friends that live in Boyle Heights, and I haven't actually heard about a particular building that was dedicated to satanic rituals. Excuse me. But I do know that there are groups that will find vacant buildings, especially ones that have basements, so they can set up ritual areas and things like that. But as far as one that was dedicated specifically for that, I haven't heard anything, or I haven't been told anything by my friends who actually live in Boyle Heights. So.
Okay.
I believe it's true. It might be true, because I know the building, the Cecil Hotel, has a basement that was known for satanic rituals.
Okay. All right, Norbert. Thank you, man. And we'll continue to elaborate through phone calls about the Cecil Hotel. Talk to you later. Thank you for calling us. Okay, right now. Have you did any research on the Cecil Hotel while we're getting another phone call?
Actually, I've been to the Cecil, 10 or 12 times.
Okay.
And I've spoken with a lot of the employees. And just as an FYI, for anybody who's interested in finding out about haunts at a hotel or...
Let's get this phone call, and
sure.
then we'll continue from there. Hello, caller.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Where are you calling from?
I just wanted to, I'm calling from Oxnard, California.
Okay.
I just had a scary story I just want to share with you guys real quick.
Go for it.
Yeah. All right. I used to live in a studio apartment, right? No rooms, whatever. So we used to always see this. We lived upstairs, and we always saw the shadow passing in front of our window every day, every night. Boom. People would even ask, "Hey, who lives next door?" I'd be like, "Nobody lives next door right now." And they'd be like, "I keep seeing shadows," and I'd be like, "Yeah, we always see that." So one night I'm sitting there, and I see the shadow pass by. Now, no one lives next door, right? So the shadow has nowhere to go. But I live in the studio, so I see the shadow. I jump up, run to the door. I'm there in 2 seconds. Open the door. Now, no one lives next door, so they have nowhere to go. They couldn't even open the door that fast. So, all right, I go sit back down. Sorry, I'm trying to do this real fast. So I go sit back down. My mom's sitting there watching TV. And when I sit down, I tell my mom, nobody was there. And when I say that, the shadow comes back, coming from that way again, the opposite way. And I go, there it is. And when I say there it is, it comes back a third time. But by the time my mom turns, it ducks. And then, I just sat there and the rest of the night I'm watching TV, like covering my eye so I can't see that way. And my mom just said, she's like, it scared you, huh? And I was like, yeah. She goes, you must be doing something bad. So,
okay.
I just want to see what you guys thought of that.
Cool. Thank you, man. I greatly appreciate you calling in. And
then
yes.
And one last part. So I tell my kids this story for years. So one day I take them to that apartment and we're recording and I have it on YouTube. I'm telling them the story. And when I show the apartment, you can see an orb floating right in front of the camera.
Wow.
And so if you go on my channel, you'll see that.
Great. And what is your channel?
What? It's called Road Saviors. Saviors Road.
Saviors Road. Okay, great. Thank you, man. Thank you for calling us tonight. Thank you for being a part of the show. We greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Have a good one. Okay. All right, caller. I know we were talking about the Cecil Hotel. You went there 11, 12 times, if I'm correct.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say, if you ever want to know if there's any haunts at a hotel, ask the maids.
Yeah.
Ask housekeeping. They know everything.
Yeah.
They're a great source of information. But I have not heard one ghost story from anybody that works at the Cecil.
Really?
I've had a few tell me that they think the place is cursed, but I've had people who work there who say, no, it's not even haunted.
Okay, we have another call. It's a weird number, so let's see who this is. Hello, caller. Go ahead and ask. Well, they hung up. Oh, it was an odd number. So probably a telemarketer number. Sometimes we do get some weird phone calls.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I have to field so many of them during the day. My wife, on the other hand, she actually will sit there and mess with them when they call. So if you ever get one that says spam risk, answer it. And if it's a live person, like what I do is I'll say...
Here's another one right here. Hold on. Caller.
Yeah, 28?
Yes, welcome to Freaky Tales, man. Thank you. Where are you calling from?
Well, I'm originally from Southern California, bro, San Diego, Escondido, Mercado, San Diego.
Awesome, man. So how you doing tonight? You good?
Good, man. I recently just started a new career. I became a truck driver.
Okay.
And in this whole year, bro, that I've been here, I only have two things that have ever happened, bro.
Okay.
One was when I was 3 months in. I was doing a run from Loma, California, all the way to Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, man. And right there in Mississippi, there's a bridge, bro, that's super long. It runs through a big old swamp, man. I call it a T-bridge because the pronunciation is super hard to pronounce. There's so many words, so many letters in that word.
Yeah.
Anyways, man, I was ending my shift, and I drive partners. So there was somebody else in the sleeper bus, and I wake them up, and I'm like, hey, man, it's time to switch. I got an hour left. Get ready so we can switch. So then, I was driving, on that T-bridge I'm telling you, and he gets over here in the passenger seat, and out of nowhere, he's like, "Hey, bro, look at that!" And I was like, "What are you looking at?" And then off to the side, right by the swamp, dude, we see this like bright light, right? It looked beautiful, bro. It was like, I don't know how to explain it to you, bro. It's probably like 3 times the size of an airplane. You know, the light from an airplane.
Yeah.
And then out of nowhere, you know, it was beautiful, bro. It was just floating. It wasn't, you know, how airplane light, it goes, you know, it follows the airplane. You know, it's kind of like, you know, travels across the sky, right? This one was just like floating there, right? And out of nowhere, dude, within like 30 seconds of us staring at it, boom, it drops down at a velocity, bro, that I don't even know how fast that was. And it just goes like straight down and it disappears, bro. And like, not even a blink of an eye. Like, it just happened so freaking fast, bro. Like, milliseconds, you know?
Yeah.
After staring at it for, what's called, a few seconds up there, bro. It was crazy, man. But, that's the only like UFO story that I have, and it happened to me on the 3rd month of being here. But there's also a road that you guys are talking about, Route 66. There's another route, bro, that's called Route 666. I don't know if your co-host has heard about it, bro. They actually put another. They renamed that route because of you know skinwalkers, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of Navajo legends, bro, that go through that route. It's in the back of Gallup, New Mexico, bro. So it's like a weird stretch of land, but there's a lot of stories, bro. A lot of old time truckers that used to take that route, right? Mm-hmm. They talk about that. Some crazy things that happened in that in that road. I don't know if your co-host is familiar with it, bro. He should research it. It's called Route 666,
most definitely,
bro.
Most definitely. I'll ask him right now and in between calls. So thank you for calling, man. We greatly appreciate you sharing that, man.
All right, man.
Thank you for being a part of tonight's show.
All right, man. Thank you.
Okay, talk to you later. Okay.
You know, the government would just tell them that was swamp gas.
Yeah. Here's another one. Let's see. Hello? Caller.
Yeah, Tony.
Yes. Where are you calling from?
Hey, man, look, so I'm from Escondido, too, man. To give a shout-out to my city, you know?
Yes.
What up, Esco? But, hey, look, check it out. So, I'm not sure, like, if your host there, your guest has heard about this place right here in Escondido, California. It's called Quest Haven. It's a pretty haunted area right there, too, man. I have, like, a little story about it, too, and stuff. There's, like, this tale, this tale that goes on from there that there's a tall white lady with long white hair haunts there. Like, she's like a witch from back in these and shit like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I saw it too myself, with a couple friends and stuff. And then, she's was glowing white, tall as hell, white dress, white long dress with white long hair. And then, when I saw her, I told my homies, hey, look, boom, boom, boom. And then, they look, hey, get back in the car, dog. And then, so I look back right at her, and she's halfway to me now. Like, it was a trip, yo. So I just dip out of there. My car starts messing up on me, but then I eventually just get out of there and shit. And one more thing, man. So look, so my mom's like really into church, right? And she told me recently that a friend of hers from church helps one of the fathers that does what do you call it when they take out a demon?
Exorcism
from a person. Yeah. So that friend of my mom's went with a father that was doing an exorcism on somebody, and when they got there, the father was like they had already been there, and the father was praying, right? And the person, my mom's friend, was there with them just like as a helper, right? So then kind of like in the middle of the prayer or of the exorcist, the father tells my mom's friend like, hey, I need to step outside real quick. Keep praying for me, just keep the prayer going, you know.
Yeah. So
then the father leaves, and then my mom's friend, she, I guess like the person that was that had the demon inside them,
yeah,
like starts laughing, and then his whole head turns around and looks at my mom's friend, like just laughing, like hysterically, and and then then the father comes back. The father comes back in the room and just tells him like, oh, like what happened and stuff, and then like clearly like the guy, his head's not the his head had turned around again, you know, like kind of mocking him that, you know, like kind of like he's not as powerful as the father. For him to even be praying there or even being there, you know. But yeah, man, to give a shout out to my city, Escondido, California, you know what I mean? And, and yeah, man, I love the show, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for calling. Thank you for being a part of the show.
All
Thank
right,
you for sharing that.
Yep.
Okay. We got a lot of.
So it's not the white witch that he should be worried about. It's the black witch.
Oh, okay.
There are actually 2 witches, and they're part of the elfin forest.
Okay.
That's down there.
We have another call. Give me 1 second. Sure. Hello. Caller, where are you calling from?
Hey, Tony. This is Fidel from Vegas.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. And hi, Brian. This is a great episode.
Hey, Fidel. Thank you.
No problem. So quick story, man. It's kind of a paranormal story that I should have been wanting to share for a minute. And love your show, obviously, Tony. Big fan.
Thank you.
This actually happened back in Oregon when I was when I was about in my teens. I kind of grew up there in Oregon, and it's pertaining to my brother's godfather. He supposedly had a sixth sense. And I didn't really believe it. And there was a time where my brother was like, "Hey, can you go to his house and help him with yard work?" I was about 12, 13 years old, help him out. And we kind of developed a bond, and I would go there often on the weekends and just help him out. He would actually, after a long day of work, we would, drink a few beers or whatnot.
Yes.
that young, and he started to open up and tell me about his power that he had, his gift. And he would say, he would kind of give me little hints on what it was, and a sixth sense. He could travel into the spiritual realm. And the whole time I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, this and that. And then one day he was like, you know what, I'm gonna prove it to you. So that same night he dropped me off at my house, and he left. So my house was a 2-story. I lived in my bedroom was on the second floor. And I remember that that night I was watching TV, and he was like, "Hey man, every time you feel like there's something there watching you, that's probably a good indicator that there is something there. And if you wanted to go away, just pretty much just cuss them out or just tell them off." Okay. So I had that sense that same night. I was watching TV, and I did what he told me, and I felt a relief, like it was gone. The next day, he's like, "Hey man, let's get some lunch." We ended up getting some lunch, and he's like, "Hey, what were you doing yesterday?" "Oh, just chilling. When I got home, just relax, whatever, watch some TV." He's like, "Oh, okay, well, I was there." I was like, "What do you mean you were there?" He's like, "Well, I know what you were watching. You were watching this show." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yep." And then you said these words. And I was like, "No way." And he was like, "Yep." And as soon as you said that, my body, he was levitating. My body hit the bed. So he kind of woke up, and he disappeared in the spiritual part of it. And from that point on, I was pretty much a believer. Then he told me some other stuff. Apparently I was cursed when I was a kid, and he told me how that all works out. But yeah. Quick story I wanted to share.
Wow, thank you, man, for calling. You're the last caller of the night, so thank you for that. Greatly appreciate it. We ran out of time. Thank you for taking the time and being a part of our show. Greatly appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you're welcome. You guys, this is a great episode, man. You guys keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that was it. Because if we keep going, we're going to just keep going all night. Because they'll just keep calling, just like there's another caller right here already. But let's... Really quick, you said it's not the white witch you should look out for, it's the black witch you mentioned.
And it's kind of funny because I just wrote about the Elfin Forest, Quest Haven, and the witches for my Haunted Southern California book. And as a matter of fact, I was supposed to go down last Wednesday, with my son to snap some pictures down at the Elfin Forest. So, that's one that I found really kind of interesting. There are apparently two witches that sort of battle it out in the Elfin Forest, a black witch and a white witch. And like I said, it's the black witch you have to worry about, not the white witch.
Okay. Wow. All right. That's interesting. Now, as far as the Cecil Hotel, not one story.
Not one story that I could get from anybody who actually worked there.
Now, you've seen the video of the girl who was hitting all that. What do you think that?
Police Lamb?
Yes. What do you think that was? Because obviously it looked. Do you think she was just not, respectfully?
If you watch the video really close, and I can't remember. I used to know the timestamp, but if you look at the lower left of the elevator door, at one point you will see the tip of a shoe pop in and then pop right back out. So there was somebody there.
Right.
So I believe that, one of two things. She was she was off her meds. They found that.
Right.
And there's no way she could have gotten into the tank on her own.
See, that's the crazy part right there.
Okay. So I believe that shoe that pops in and pops out, and it's really quick, was from the person that either did her in on purpose or accidentally.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. Now, it's, the last subject, Route 666.
Route 666.
Okay.
I have heard of it, but I have not done any research on it.
Okay.
But I do know that there is a mundane reason for why they named it that. It wasn't named for any kind of strange occurrences or anything like that. It had something to do with the way the government numbers highways and the fact that it is actually right off of Route 66.
Okay.
So,
not because it had something to do with the Antichrist in the Book of Revelation 666.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
Nothing like that.
Okay. Any other places that maybe you could mention, possibly that we didn't talk about already, that are not haunted, but everybody thinks they're haunted?
Actually, we kind of mentioned the Winchester Mystery Mansion. I've been there a few times, and it has a lot of stories. But the few times I've been there with a couple psychics. They have not felt anything, have not picked up on any kind of spirits there. Now, I can't say definitively.
Right.
But, it's one of those places that I'm not sure actually haunted.
You said 99% boring, but you stay a paranormal investigator for that 1%. Doesn't it suck sometimes that you hear of all these places, of all these stories, and you go there and you feel nothing?
Yes and no. Like I had said earlier, ghosts are just dead people. So they have to take their personalities with them.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would imagine that they get pretty bored answering the same questions over.
Is anybody there?
Yeah. One of the things that I learned a long time ago, what I try and do is I try and learn as much as I can about a location and the people that were there to investigate, so I can ask intelligent questions, not just who's there, why are you here, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, what do you want? Can we help you?
And one of the things that we do and we have found works really well, and we actually have to explain to our clients, no, we're taking this serious. We will sit there and act like we're not investigating. We'll sit around and we'll joke with each other. We'll have a good time. We'll act like we're having a party. But when we're talking and having this good time, we're throwing out little tidbits that we're hoping that the spirit will answer. And it's almost like the spirits are going, hey, wait a minute, they're having a good time. I want to be part of this. And they'll come in and they'll start to try and join in. So we actually get some of our best evidence by not investigating, if that makes sense.
No, it does make perfect sense, because sometimes, like you touched on it, I'll see like ghost hunters or these shows on, I'm just going to say these stupid shows on TV. Is anybody there? can we help you? And then all of a sudden, somebody will say, it just got cold. Well, it got cold to you. I didn't feel that, you know. And then another one will be like, they'll keep walking, and all of a sudden, I know how editing goes. I've edited before. They'll put a sound of a can. Did you guys hear that? Did you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, look, bro, I'd rather watch, you know, Monster Squad on on VHS than watch you guys. But now as far as
Just real quick,
Yes, sir.
something you might find amusing.
Yes,
Okay,
sure.
you're talking about cold spots.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what show it was, but they were investigating at the Titanic Museum, and there were actually a couple shows that did that. And they're standing there, and one of them goes, I'm feeling a cold spot. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, are you kidding me? You're standing in front of a fake iceberg. They were standing in front of this giant block of ice going, I'm feeling a cold spot. Duh.
Wow.
It's like,
yeah, no, I understand, and I try not to, like. There's even a show now that they go out looking for Bigfoot, and then this guy's like, I saw those bushes moving, and I'm telling you right now that whatever was there was not human.
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's probably a bear, you know, but yeah, like you said, we cannot find Bigfoot. Some people think that he jumps from dimension to dimension, and
Yeah, that's a new one because nobody can find him.
yeah, so
Or he's a space alien. That's another one.
yeah,
One of the things that drives me nuts is the Sasquatch has a very close connection with Native Americans, but they do not look at Sasquatch like we do. The Modoc call Sasquatch Matakagmi. Okay, and they have a almost like a working relationship with them. They believe that if they treat the Matakagmi with respect, they'll do the same thing. To the Native Americans, they're not these evil, vicious, I want to kill every human being creature out there. That's basically only others outside of the Native American tribes. So, we sensationalize everything.
yeah. Okay. All right, Brian, anything maybe that I didn't ask you, anything you want to bring up as we close? Anything else you want to touch on?
No, not really. Just, if you're going to do your own investigations, just make sure you treat all the spirits with respect. Do not provoke them, because that would be basically like somebody coming into your house and starting to yell at you for being there. Just treat the spirits with respect, and they'll treat you with respect.
Okay. Other than that, once again, BrianClune.com. Check out his vlog. Do that. You guys want to get away for a weekend, he'll tell you where to go, haunted restaurants, haunted hotels, whatever. Check his blog at BrianClune.com. It's on the screen. And also, you can go to Amazon and Brian Clune to get his collection. So once again, on Amazon, all his books are there. How many books total do you have?
I have 10 right now, with 11, 12, and 13 coming out.
Awesome. I know you had mentioned you had a podcast at one point. Mm-hmm. What was the name of the podcast, and will it be available eventually?
It was the Full Spectrum Project, and we are hoping to get another co-host. The reason the show is not on right now is because my co-host passed away from COVID.
Sorry to hear that.
And the Full Spectrum Project is not just ghosts. We will touch on all kinds of different subjects, strange, unusual. We've talked about ghosts. We've talked about the New Orleans Axeman murders. You name it, we talk about it.
Okay. Whenever you kick that off, please let me know, and I'd love to promote it here so that people
Thank
can
you.
tune in.
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay, other than that, once again, I want to thank Brian Clune for being our guest. I want to thank everybody on the live chat, everybody who subscribed, everybody who commented, everybody who's a fan, everybody who called in. I just want to thank all of you guys for being a part of our show. Also, I want to give a shout out once again to Alex Cervantes Enterprise, for running this show. Anthony, the Hip Hop Jedi. I also want to thank my son, B. Scanless, for helping me promote this, and everybody out there that supports and that shows love to our podcast and my other podcasts. Thank you very, very much. So I'm doing 2 episodes every month. Sometimes I may do them back to back. Sometimes they may be every other week, but I will do 2 episodes every month. So we'll be back next month in April. I just gotta follow me on Freaky Tales podcast on Instagram. That's where you get all the full details on who my next guest is and when the next date is. So once again, the only way you're gonna know is if you follow me on Instagram, Freaky Tales podcast, and subscribe. Once again, thank you, because you know what, my subscribers have doubled since we took our little break. So I want to thank all of you guys that have subscribed. Thank you. Share, like, comment. We'll see you guys next month. Once again, thank you, Brian Clune.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. And then please go to Amazon and buy him out. Okay. Have a blessed night.